World on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We have a lot of stuff to plan to talk with you about today. Tim Frisby, the former Gamecock wide receiver, joins us here shortly as we talk about what now is the end of the South Carolina football season. You know, there was talk that there was going to be a bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl, against the Conference USA champion UAB Blazers. How many people were absolutely excited about this bowl game? Come on now. Come on now. You know you were with it. No, not so much. Not so much. Gamecock Twitter was upset. I mean, they really were. Really, really mad about this whole thing with having the actual bowl game. And Teddy Hefner tweeted out this afternoon, once it was canceled. I want to make sure that I give him credit for exactly what he wrote because it kind of made me chuckle a little bit. By the way, Teddy Hefner's on every morning here from 9 to noon. He said, according to his tweet, those who decried South Carolina going to a bowl have gotten their wish. Due to COVID issues, the Gamecocks have opted out of the Gasparilla Bowl. So with that, there is no Gasparilla Bowl as far as the Gamecocks go. But you know what? I think there's a section of folks that are like, all right, we don't have to go and play in this game. And let's be honest, I'm going to sound like I'm just barking up this tree here. But did you really think you had a team that could go and win against this Conference USA team that, in my opinion, really, really wanted this game? So in the end, maybe it works out better for the Gamecocks. Maybe they don't have to go and possibly get embarrassed by a team from Conference USA. So I think this is a good thing for South Carolina. We'll take your calls on this at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. You know what, though? I think the crazy thing is that since yesterday, we've had two different things happen with the bowl season. The first being that Army, who basically called out everyone on the west of the Mississippi saying, yeah, they're scared to death to play us. Now they're going to get to play against West Virginia. So Army does make it to a bowl game with a 9-2 record. And you know what? I'm happy about that for them. That's a great thing for Army. Also, then, of course, today we have South Carolina opting out due to COVID-19. Of course, Mike Uva from Watch Fox TV tweeted that out earlier today, that due to contact tracing, it looked like it just wasn't going to happen. But let's be honest, did you really think that it was going to be in the mix anyway? I mean, for these things to actually happen and for everyone to make it within the protocols, people are going to have to, as far as teams go, they're going to have to live in a bubble. Have to absolutely live in a bubble. And that's kind of what happened to South Carolina here is, contact tracing kept them pretty much out of the mix. So we'll take calls on this afternoon, 803-978-1832. What do you think about that? We've also got the awards season kicking up here. What I mean by that is that there were, 12 players for Clemson that made the All-ACC team. I think it's 3 players for South Carolina that were All-SEC team selections. We'll get into that this afternoon as well. One note that sticks out there, Miles Murphy for Clemson didn't make one of those teams, which is kind of, I think he was mentioned, but Miles Murphy, I think, led the Clemson Tigers in tackles for loss, was one of the best defensive linemen, I thought, at least in the conference. So, yeah. So there you go. I don't know how true this is, but Brandon Online says Uva also reported some of the players also didn't want to play another game for Mike Bobo. Well, if that's the case, I'll bring up Uva's tweets right now. If that's the case, ladies and gentlemen, the thought of the Gamecocks possibly keeping him on, that's interesting in its own right. Let's head out to the phones and welcome in. Hey, I believe this is my friend Tim Frisby. Tim, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on there, Rob?
Hey, man, it's good to have you with us. Glad we were able to get you on the show today. I wanted to kind of wrap up the Gamecock football season, and you know what? It was going to be the Rob and Tim show on Saturday, or Tim and Rob. I don't mind being second billing to you, sir, but the Gamecocks screwed us over. I'm angry about that.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that too. That would have been a good show.
Yeah, it would have been the last show we've done because you and I would have been snippy.
Fans would have loved that one for sure.
Yeah, especially if the Gamecocks lost, it would have been. Oh man, we would have been snippy with each other. It would have been great. But hey, man,
that.
Go ahead.
I would have said that would have been a kind of a Gamecocks were in a no-win situation going into that game. Being you're playing a University of Alabama Birmingham team who's recently just resurrected that program from the dead, and here you have an SEC team who considers itself a mid-level SEC team. You're supposed to win that game. You go in as an underdog to a recently resurrected UAB team, and if you lose that game, then you're really in for trouble going into the off season. So there's some silver linings in it, but unfortunate that the game was canceled.
And to be honest, there really was no winner thing here for the Gamecocks. I mean, in just reality. I mean, as you said, if you win, you were supposed to win. If you lose, then you need more mouthwash to go in after this 2-8 season. And it just, in my opinion, it gave them another chance to go out there. And what interim coach Bobo said, hey, you know what? We can go out there and make a mark and be competitive, but you could also go out there and get embarrassed too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So you're in the camp that I'm in that, hey, this happened and that should be the way to go there. Of course, Mike Uva tweeted out a little bit earlier today. He was talking about, according to some notes here, that maybe there were some players that didn't want to play another game for Bobo. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's concerning. Just from the fact that as players, you usually tend to roll with the punches, and hey, we have coaching changes, and you kind of play out the season with the hand you're dealt. But it seems like that there's been since the Muschamp since Coach Muschamp was let go, and players were unhappy with that decision. At least some of them. That there's some carryover from that, and it seems like the locker room's kind of split, and that goes back to the Colin Hill decision to start over Helinski, who had kind of won over the team from last year. So there's basically some dissension and unhappiness in that locker room, and that's just another issue you're going to have to confront going into what's already going to be a hectic offseason for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, but the other end of it too, though, is that if they're not wanting to play for Mike Bobo, I mean, if there was a chance that Shane Beamer was keeping him on his staff, that kind of sends a little bit of a rumble there, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're going to have to, the messaging is going to have to be very important over these next couple of days to exactly, what went on. Now they're trying to, of course, place heavy emphasis that this is a COVID-related cancellation based on tracing and stuff like that. And, that would be very good for them to get that message out and, have that be the message going forward than any kind of dissension within that locker room or between the players and the coaching staff. Because like you said, if they plan on keeping Coach Bobo on, that's not going to be good going forward if your players kind of mutinied on you at the end.
Well, but that moves into the other spot. If let's just go out into the vacuum here and say, all right, if South Carolina was thinking about keeping Bobo on, now they've got to go and find someone else. I mean, the biggest recruitment thing that Shane Beamer is going to have to do from the start is to get some good coordinators. And hearing this about Bobo is kind of a shot across the bow. He may have to go a different route, but you agree with me on that getting the recruiting, getting the coordinators is the biggest thing for Shane Beamer right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's concerning. So whether that, whether it was in the works already that they were looking at other coordinators, we don't quite know. We're not kind of insiders on that yet. So if that was the case, then yeah, it's proceeding as normal. But if that wasn't the case and they had been looking at keeping Bobo on, then yeah, that's going to cause some concern and some delays as we go forward.
Well, but after that, the Gamecock recruiting class, and there was a gentleman that called up last week on signing day and said he wanted to get your opinion on the class. I mean, 8 guys. What do you think of the incoming class?
Well, they limited. I think they purposely limited it to those 8 guys because they wanted to keep a bunch of scholarships open for obviously what's going to be a hectic transfer portal and junior college. Influx of some junior college players that could kind of help the program immediately. So I think that was the intent there at the end when there were some guys on the fence that they weren't quite sure about. He kind of pushed out those signings to the actual February signing day if they are still going to sign, and kind of keep that class small and keep scholarships available for players that may be able to immediately help with these the new transfer rule for next year, and also junior college transfers.
Speaking of which, and I think I know the answer, but what position do you think they need to hit the transfer portal the hardest for? I'm going to give you 3 options here: wide receivers, linebackers, or defensive backs.
Well, I'd say the first 2 obviously definitely would be the areas of most concern, wide receiver being number 1, and then obviously your linebackers in that scenario being number 2. But those are, key elements. I think, like I said, I already, I tweeted out earlier, now since the season's canceled, you're going to have your exit interviews. And I think there's going to be some carnage on that end. I think, a lot of those guys are going to be told the services are no longer needed here. So I'm looking at totally kind of at least half of that receiver room gone going into next year, and an influx of some new talent at that position.
And I'm not trying to bash a bunch of young men over there, but do you think heading into next season with the folks that we know from right now are leaving, this may be the weakest South Carolina receiving core I've seen in 20 years?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. It has been, even not going into next season, but this year, it definitely was. So obviously, Shi Smith was the shining star in it, but like I said, 1 or 2 guys maybe had a game or 2 where they showed some promise, but no consistency, and no one ever got on track as a second or third receiver during the season. So the tight ends still look like they could be promising with some folks in that position, but receiver, there's definitely going to have to be some changes made there.
You and I normally agree on most things here unless it comes to conference superiority, but on this front, with South Carolina going into next season, what are your thoughts on what Ryan Hilinski is going to do? Because I believe that he's going to at least stay through spring practice and see where he shakes out on the depth chart, but I don't think he came to South Carolina to sit on the bench. Do you think that we may see him hit the transfer portal after spring ball?
I agree with you there. I think a decision is going to have to be made, and I think he'll be upfront with them and let them know. Like I said, I'll compete through spring ball, and once you make your decision, then I'll make my decision. And again, I think he'll be given an opportunity, especially if Bobo moves on, because I don't know what that dynamic is, but it seems something's a little off there. But I think if Bobo, especially if Bobo moves on, that he'll be given an opportunity to win that job. And if so, then I think he stays on. If not, I think he'll be a candidate for the transfer portal for sure after spring ball.
Well, we'll see how that works out. But you know what? I remember back, and it's one of those things that it doesn't really hit you in the face until later on. But it seemed like from the beginning, Mike Bobo said, hey, Hilinski needs a lot of work with his footwork. And, normally coaches don't single out guys like that. Do you remember that press conference? And did that come across to you as odd then for that to come out then? And then it does look strange as we've gotten to the end of the season.
Yeah. I do believe, like I said, I think Bobo, now looking back in hindsight, was kind of always leaning towards his guy. Coming knowing he had a player that ran his offense coming from Colorado State. I didn't think he was going to bring that guy in here to sit the bench. So, especially with knowing that at that time he only had 1 year of eligibility. So I think the die was already kind of cast then, and little things were said along the way that like kind of pushed us as analysts to say, we think Hill's probably going to get this job, and that's what it turned out being. So. That's what's going on. I think with that dynamic there, with Helinski, then again, some decisions going to have to be made after spring ball.
All right, what do we take away as positives? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, this should be Kevin Harris's team. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just about how you work in Lloyd now next year as far as carries. Obviously, with a talent like that, you're going to have to get him involved in the ball game. But I think Harris is more a type of a bell cow back who needs carries to get lathered up and get going. And it's not going to be one of these situations where you're rotating him in and out either every other series or even within a series. I don't think it's going to be that type of deal. I think it's going to be Harris's job, and it's just going to be about a way to get Lloyd on the field next year.
And on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, there are a lot of big name recruits that are over there. Who do you think is going to lead the Gamecock defense next year?
Well, it's all going to be about creating now, not only adding depth to that, because you got some big names over there, but you have to build the depth up because from one series to another, and sometimes within series on the defensive side, guys have to be running in and off the field and filling in there. And if you don't have the depth, you can fall off drastically from one change of lines to the next. If you're kind of in a hockey mannerism, you're running guys in and changing lines, and if that depth is not the same quality, then you can have a serious fall off. So it's going to be about recruiting and getting in depth for that defense, and then working with these guys during winter, spring, and that summer and fall camp on becoming experts at their positions and playing assignment football.
Former Gamecock Tim Frisby joins us on the show. I have to ask you about the college football playoff. Are you in the camp that the CFP got it right? I think they got it half right, but what's your opinion on the Final Four?
Yeah, I think they got it half right. Obviously we know Alabama Clemson was going to be in there. It came down to traditional programs again, kind of getting the benefit of the doubt with Ohio State getting in. I thought Texas A&M could probably creep in there, and there might have been other teams more deserving. But I think a problem for them was that with Notre Dame losing in that ACC championship game, they did not want to if they dropped Notre Dame to 3, or for instance, if they didn't bring Ohio State in, I think they would have kept Notre Dame at 3, and they didn't want to see that rematch, not next week again between Clemson and Notre Dame again in that playoff. So I knew they were going to manipulate that seeding so that Clemson, Ohio State, and Notre Dame were not going to play again unless they met up in the championship game. So I think Ohio State got the benefit of the doubt, and we'll have to see how they perform now. Over the last few college football playoffs, they have not performed up to standards and have been kind of blown out of there. So we'll see where they're at.
The Big Ten, and of course, I know you're up from the Pennsylvania area, so you kind of grew up as a Big Ten guy, I would think, right?
Well, I was a Big Ten State fan. They were independent at the time. Didn't go into the Big Ten until after I had left the area. But yeah, I'm familiar, obviously, with those Big Ten teams, the Ohio States, the Michigans, and things like that. Of course,
the Big Ten hasn't won a game in the college football playoff since I think 2014. Do you think that's more the Big Ten is falling off, or is it just the matchups that have kind of not favored the teams that are there?
Well, it's the matchups, and it's also obviously when Urban Meyer was at Ohio State, he had the mindset of recruiting like the SEC recruits. So he had that type of talent, of SEC, ACC teams as far as speed and stuff like that. And these current teams have kind of reverted back to that, pounding physical type games that are not going to get you wins in the college football playoffs. So, I think they've reverted a little bit back to their Big Ten ways. And if they want to win and be in contention for these college football playoffs, they're going to have to start, having that Urban Meyer mindset and recruiting like they're an SEC team.
Do you think there's an issue of a lack of speed? And what I mean by that is that it seems like I think that Ohio State is at a point where they're almost at close to par, but it seems like a lot of the other teams, Michigan is one that they just look like they're slow, just trudging out there. Look like they've got great offensive line play and they can run block, but other than that, they just kind of look flat.
Yeah, they haven't been able to get the talent from areas where those speed guys normally come from. They're great at recruiting their footprint. The Pennsylvanias, the Ohios, the Michigans, the Illinois in there. But those are more your physical type players. They're not known for speed type games. And when they have been successful, they've gotten guys from ACC, SEC, Big 12 type footprint guys that bring speed into their programs, and they just haven't been able to do that. Whether that be because of geographic reasons, guys just don't want to go play in that cold, or with the these TV deals and stuff now. But it's a problem up there.
Tim Frisby, former Gamecock, and of course, it was supposed to be the Rob and Tim show this weekend. That's what we were going to call it. Normally, it's the fifth quarter postgame show on WVOC. Hey, Tim, I appreciate you joining us, man. I'm sorry we didn't get to work together this weekend, but man, it's going to be great to strap in and get ready for the bowls. I hope you and your family have a good holiday.
Absolutely. Have a Merry Christmas, a good New Year, and looking forward to a 2021 and getting out of this 2020 for sure.
I hear you on that, man. Hey, man, stay healthy, buddy. We'll talk to you later on.
All right, you too. All right.
There we go. Tim Frisby, former Gamecock, joining us here. He made a lot of good points. The big thing that today, of course, other than the Gamecocks being out of the bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl, Mike Uva tweeted this out earlier from Watch Vox, and it said, I'm told COVID tracing was a concern, but following a players-only meeting and a meeting with Ray Tanner, some players did not want to play for interim coach Mike Bobo. To be clear, based on where contact tracing stood as of 11 a.m. for the Gamecocks, I was told COVID is the reason why South Carolina will not play. I'm still gathering how many players didn't want to play for Mike Bobo, but COVID prevented the bowl game from being played. All right, so I'm one of these guys that I trust in what Mike Uva puts out. He's not going to put out garbage. So John Whittle from the Big Spur did say, I just spoke with athletics director Ray Tanner, who informed me that Mike Bobo's name was never mentioned in his meeting with the players on Tuesday. No player expressed they did not want to play in the bowl game for Bobo, to which Mike Uva tweeted back, correct, because this was said following the meeting. And he says, I have the receipts with text messages from the individuals I spoke with and trust. I've never been one to make things up for the sake of it, and I'll let my track record speak for itself. I stand by what I reported. Basically, Uva's confident in that there was a group of Gamecock players that didn't want to play for Mike Bobo. Simple as that. And I try to bring you as much fact as I can on this show. I believe in what Mike Uva said. I think there was something going on there. And a perfect example is what I talked about with Tim there for a moment ago. If you remember, back in the preseason, it was when he was asked about Helinski, one of the first times that Will Muschamp let Mike Bobo talk to the media. He said Helinski has issues with his footwork. I think he said his footwork is terrible. I think that was the term, if I remember right. I got to go back and look at it, but it was generally coaches don't single out a player like that. They just don't do it. And I wonder if that was something that hindered Helinski throughout the season, because I'll tell you what, Helinski people seem to forget he played against the University of Alabama, a pretty good team. We remember them, right? Yeah, he played against that Alabama team his freshman year, his fourth game into the college season, and threw for 300 yards. He didn't wake up in the morning and become a crummy quarterback. Now, granted, everyone can make adjustments and do different things and make themselves a little bit better. I think the majority of his season, though, as a freshman, he was hurt. And I think that that's not really out there as much. Let's head out to the phones. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Hey, Rob. How's it going, brother?
Hey, buddy. What's going on, man?
How much time we got?
I got about 40 seconds. Have at it.
No, that's all right. I'll call back later.
All right. Well, call me back later on then, man. We'll talk to you.
All
I just got to get to this break, man. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, take care.
All right, buddy. All right, so we'll talk about that, about the stuff with Ryan Helinski in just a moment. I'm not trying to plant seeds here. I'm just saying that it's interesting that happened, and now it's come out with this from Mike Uva that guys didn't want to play for Mike Bobo. Wow. Interesting stuff there. And by the way, this does cost the Gamecocks money. I got to look at that. There was something that Sapikoff from the Post and Courier put out there. So we'll talk about that and a lot more in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400.
At AAA Heating and Air, get an instant manufacturer's rebate of $1,500 plus zero.
Hey, Grover, he said he had issues with his footwork. So I'm pulling up the actual transcript of it now. I do agree with you on the other statement, though. I realize Bobo knows a lot more about football than me, but he did not know enough to convince me that Hill was better than the true freshman that started against Bama in 2019. You are right about that, sir. You are absolutely right about that. I'm working on building mine up there, Mark. Jackpot lets me use his for right now. It's just I'm working on building mine up. So I started it not too long ago, but it's tough to build one and to get enough people to follow it. But you just look for me as at Rob Sanders over there, at Rob Sounds Good. I'm trying to find the exact quote here from this. Trying to figure out exactly how much that was. That I think it was like $2 million that South Carolina would have gotten on that. Jerome, you're probably right about that, man. It's I don't know, man. He may end up staying. We'll see. Yeah, that was the payout. It was like $2 million if they go to a bowl game. So, yeah. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Got a big show planned for you coming up on the last day of the year, New Year's Eve. I'll be taking off for the holidays after today. So for folks that are finding the show today, they're going to think, man, this guy disappeared. No, it's not like that. I'm just taking some time off, man. Going to run around with the kids a little bit. But on New Year's Eve, we're going to do a big preview show with myself and Clemson Sports Talk. We're going to preview all of the New Year's Day bowl games and all of the stuff with the Clemson game too. So we'll have that for you, and you can find us there with Lawton Swann from Clemson Sports Talk. So looking forward to that on New Year's Eve as we have a 3-hour extravaganza, which is a heck of a lot of time on New Year's Eve, but that's what we're going to do. We'll have interviews from several different people and get ourselves ready for that game on the on New Year's Eve. Shout out to my buddy David, one of my favorite LSU fans, mocking me in the YouTube chat over there. Thank you, David, for checking out the show. All right, so we'll take calls at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, do you think Ryan Helinski got a fair shot? Do you believe the stuff that Mike Uva put out that maybe there were some players that didn't want to play for Mike Bobo? Are you happy that South Carolina is out of the bowl game? We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. It is great. We talked about this a little bit earlier, that Army got into a bowl game at 9-2. Very cool. I mean, it's great that they actually were able to get into a bowl game, 9-2 record, and I think they're going to win over West Virginia. Why not? West Virginia has no time to prepare for that option, and if you don't have time to prepare for it, it can bite you in the butt. It's just the way that it is. So, if you'd like to get into it with us about that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. You know, there's also the Auburn coaching search, which has now turned into a gong show. Are we at the point now where Auburn is a place that nobody wants to coach? Apparently, according to the internet, the interweb, whatever it is you want to call it, they interviewed Napier, the Louisiana head coach, and he turned them down. Now, I don't get what he wants, meaning there has to be something there at Auburn that he looks at and says, okay, I don't want a job at a perennial power there. Then what's the deal at Auburn? Because I don't think there's going to be another opening like that anytime soon. So we'll see how that works out. But who are they going to get? Crazy. Walter Online says, if Mike Uva is telling the truth, and I believe he is, it's probably because he dropped some tough love in his last press conference. Maybe right. You know, and Tim Frisby said earlier, the exit interviews are going to start. And when the exit interviews start, I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are thinking they're one thing, but they may be told, yeah, your services are no longer needed. That may be the case. Edwin says he'll do the Auburn job for a year if it'll get him back in the South and out of the land of fruits and nuts. Good point, sir. Good point. But you would think there'd be somebody that wants that job. David with another good point, a name no one ever discusses, but he would hire is Jim Tressel. I don't know why. I mean, the sweater vest? I don't know why he wasn't in the mix. No clue. We'll have to see on that. Either way, still an interesting mix there with the the stuff going on at Auburn, and I don't know who they're going to get. They mentioned the UAB coach. Walter says Will Muschamp wants it. They're paying Gus Malzahn, who was 34 games over 500, $21 million to sit on his porch this Christmas Eve or this Christmas season. I got nothing. I think that's one of the toughest jobs on the planet. I really do. As far as the scheduling goes, I mean, they've got every year they play Georgia, they play Alabama, they play LSU, they play Texas A&M. That's a tough schedule every single year. And, the years have to kind of line up right for you to have a great season. So you're expecting somebody to come there and just take that job. I don't get it. We'll take your calls on that at 803-978-1832. Who do you think should take the Auburn job? Who have you got in the mix that's going to be like, all right, they could make this work? I wonder if Urban Meyer is kind of in the mix there, which I think he was offered the Texas job, which to me is, I don't know, it's going to take a lot for somebody to quote unquote bring Texas back. Just saying. But if he turned down the Texas job, do you think he wants the Auburn job? I don't know. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. There is the stuff that's going on with LSU too. After all the investigations and everything come out, how are the Tigers going to head into next season? Ed Orgeron just won a national title. You would think that there's something out there that's like, all right, they're going to be fine. But then not so much, man, with everything that's supposedly going on down there. This is kind of an interesting time during the college football season. We're all jacked up for the bowl games. There's going to be lots of coaches that are going to be moving around. So we'll see how things shake out. Also, keep your eye on Twitter throughout the holiday season, because the transfer portal, as I said, is heating up. And the last 2 weeks of the year, they're going to want all these guys on campus in January. So look for, especially South Carolina, to be very active on that transfer portal and getting guys into the mix. Would not surprise me if by Monday of next week, we knew who the offensive and defensive coordinators are for South Carolina. And then it wouldn't surprise me if a week after that, we were talking about players that are coming in. So we'll see how that works out. But the timeline is crunched right now. It really is. All right. So we are going to we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Lawton Swann from Clemson Sports Talk is going to join us, and we're going to talk about our big special that we're going to have. That's going to be fun. So we'll get into that with Lawton in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400.
you or a loved one use talcum baby powder-based
All right, Swanee, you ready?
Yep.
I'm gonna kick it to the CST.
You don't need to. Because well, if it's all coming through.
I mean, I hear you. Hold on.
Yeah, you will.
I can't hear you on. I gotta run that macro. Don't I? I think I do. Don't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to run the macro. Hold on. I got it.
Here it is. Does your stream hear the commercials and stuff normally?
No, I have it in Audition where it's not an Audition, so we're good.
They're going to hear their commercials because I'm about to punch them up.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I got to run.
Take that first step to talk to a therapist.
There we go. And then I got the macro there. We're going to see if this is going to work. It should. It should.
Our radio's #1 for podcasts. But don't take our word for it. Find Cut to It featuring Steve Smith Sr. on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your
the
phone.
delay, brother. The delay's getting us.
Devices like Alexa, Google.
There we go. And welcome back to the Rundown. I am Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us on the show today. As you see to my right there, folks watching online, the ball man on the radio, the czar of Clemson Sports Talk, of course, heard on Sports Radio 100.1, The Fan, 920 AM in Manning, in the vast Clemson Sports Talk Radio Network, Lawton Swann. Lawton, what's up, brother?
Rob, I'm just hoping this is going to work. I asked the Magic 8 Ball. It said it is decidedly so. So that means it's going to go well.
Well, appreciate you making some time to hang out with us today as we get set. And I wanted to bring you on for a second here to tell us, hey, man, we're going to have a big show on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, man. Always looking forward to anytime we get into bowl season. And we're going to have a little break before Clemson and Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl, but we'll be here on the 31st, rocking and rolling. We're going to do 3 hours together, so it should be a lot of fun.
Well, and Swanee is not going to grace us with his presence here. He's going to be at his house, which is not a bad thing, right?
No, the Palatial 108 Studios, 316 Greystone Boulevard, but close. But I've enjoyed the ability to be able to do the show from home. It's given me more time with my wife and kids, so that's been a good thing as well. But yeah, man, I'm excited about the opportunity to do a show with you. And, you know, for many years, we kind of did that on the weekend of the Carolina Clemson game, which of course we didn't have. And now South Carolina season coming to the close because of COVID-19. That's unbelievable. Not even going to play in the Gasparilla Bowl. I would argue they didn't deserve to go to a bowl with a 2-win season, but in 2020, all bets were off.
Yeah, it's interesting how that shaked up there for the Gamecocks. And did you see the report from Mike Uva where he said that there was some Gamecock players that didn't want to play for Bobo? What do you think about that?
That speaks to me about the culture, perhaps, if that is true. And Mike actually joins me in hour number 2 of the program on Tuesday. So we'll have him on in just a little bit to kind of give us the inside scoop on that. But absolutely, I think that if you're the South Carolina Gamecock fans right now, I mean, your excitement is in the future, not in the past. And unfortunately, Mike Bobo, I think, is going to be a part of the past. I think Shane Beamer is going to retool things completely, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which way the Gamecocks go on that route as far as picking up a new offensive and a new defensive coordinator. Let's pivot to the matchup with Clemson and Ohio State here. You know, generally you get a whole section of time to play this game, but I mean, it's like 11 days they get to prep, man. That's going to be, I think that's tough on the coaching staff, don't you?
Yeah, I think, well, there's some normalcy to it this year, I think, because you had 2 other bye weeks, and then you had the bye week before the ACC championship. So Clemson's kind of been through this 3 times already. What I think is difficult for Clemson is there's not a lot of tape on Ohio State. Now, granted, they can watch the 6 games twice, and it's like watching 12, but maybe there's some wrinkles there that Ohio State hasn't shown them yet. The positive side of things is right now, Justin Fields, Rob, doesn't look comfortable. He hasn't looked comfortable this year. And if you are an offensive coordinator, knowing what Brent Venables is going to try to do to you, I don't care if you're Ryan Day and you're one of the best offensive minds in the country, your quarterback's got to be playing sharp. And quite frankly, Justin Fields just hasn't been.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that matchup. And there's some other bowl games that kind of pique my interest a little bit. I like the Orange Bowl with North Carolina and Texas A&M. You've got North Carolina with two great running backs and Sam Howell up against a Texas A&M defense that's gotten better as the season has gone along. A good ACC-SEC matchup. We like seeing those in the bowl season, right?
Well, and I think this one's interesting because it's tough for a team, I think, like Texas A&M, Rob, and you know this from the many years you've covered sports, when they had this in their mind's eye that they were going to be in the college football playoff, then all of a sudden they're on the outside looking in. Yes, they want to be there, but do they want to be there? North Carolina's got 3 losses on the season. They'll have something to prove in this matchup, and so they're going to come out swinging because they want to, like the ACC always does against the SEC. They feel like they've got something to prove. Does Texas A&M have that, quote, letdown game? Jimbo Fisher better not lose that one because he's done an awful lot of chirping after they were left out of the college football playoff.
I mean, he was throwing up gang signs after the game, after the when they won at Tennessee. I mean, I thought he was throwing up some old school West Side signs.
Well, look, they pay him $7.5 million a year. They gave him a 10-year contract. They expect big things. They were on the outside of the college football playoff. They should have been on the outside of the college football playoff. I don't believe that Kellen Mond is a good enough quarterback to beat Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, or Ohio State, quite frankly. I don't love the fact that we've got a 6-win team in. I get what Dabo Swinney did in voting Ohio State 11th, Rob, because I was thinking today, undefeated.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that matchup goes with North Carolina and Texas A&M. The holiday season is upon us. Are you dressing up like Santa Claus this year, sir?
Oh, I am right now. How's my outfit?
That's terrible. No, normally you dress up like Santa Claus every year. What's up with that? What happened with Swanny Claus?
This year I'm not going to be able to, unfortunately, but it's a lot of fun, man. I love seeing the sparkle in kids' eyes, and I just try to be one of Santa's good helpers out there, to give some Christmas cheer.
Well, as we said, we're getting ready into the bowl season. You and I will be taking off up until New Year's Eve. So today is your last show before that show on New Year's Eve. So we get some time off. Anything special you're doing with the family before the holiday?
Yeah, just hanging out, man. I think it's the longest break you or I have had this entire year.
It seems like, and I look at my vacation totals from over here at iHeart, and it's like, oh, I didn't take any. Imagine that.
Right.
So
if they ever give you the pink slip, just say, "Hey guys, can I use up this vacay before you hand me that paper, please?"
I know, right? Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, we've got all that coming for you on New Year's Eve. I'm looking forward to that, and we'll try to get some interviews and all of that together as we roll along here. Of course, I'll be Swanee and I will be working together on New Year's Eve to preview the Clemson and Ohio State game, and we'll look at some of the other bowl games too as we get set up to head into the new year. Man, I'm ready for 2020 to get over with. I'm done, brother.
Yeah. How was the audio on this? I mean, this was a test run. We'd never done it before. It sounded good on the iHeartRadio app.
Well, it sounds good in my headset. So that's all that I care about. My headset matches what goes on the air, then I think then we'll be fine. So, but yeah, we'll have to, we wanted to make sure we were able to make this work today because I didn't want to come in here like anytime when we're supposed to be off. No, it's not happening. So
it sounds like you're in the studio together.
All right. Yeah. Who's up with you on your show today?
It's just Mike Yuba coming up at 5:00, man. So we'll be rocking and rolling, talking Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and Notre Dame.
Edwin says we sound good over there on Facebook, so we appreciate that. There you go. It's all about Edwin over on Facebook. All right, man. Well, I hope you and your family have a great holiday season. I'm looking forward to working with you on New Year's Eve. I'm just really jacked about that we actually get to work together. Normally, you've taken your time and gone down to the game. So, yeah, so there's that. All right, Lawton Swann's coming up next. Appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Clemson Sports. My name is Rob Sanders. We'll see you later on. Have a good Christmas, and we'll see you on New Year's Eve. See you later, Swanee.